lecture on Advanced Java, Multithreading and Generic Programming. I'm glad and it's my immense pleasure to introduce our guest resource person, Miss Indumati. She has completed her BE in Triple E. Literally, I'm proud to say that she was the university rank holder, 27th rank. She is one of the best outgoing students of our college. She is working as OFS as software engineer. She has started her working in Java, Spring Boot, Appium, JavaScript, .NET Core. At present, she was working as .NET developer. I think our future engineers are eagerly waiting to know and gain knowledge about ma'am. The whole crowd is set for you, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks for the welcome note. Good morning, all.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
So let me share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today we are going to dive into a concept, dive into the advanced Java concept. As we all know, multi-threading is a key feature of Java. So we are going to learn about how a thread works, how to create a thread, and how it actually functions, how to consume that in a real time. Also, we are going to discuss about the generic programming. So with the concept of multi-threading, we should know what is thread, right? What from the basics, we should go from basics like how to approach or how to create a thread and where to use the thread and what is the actual usage of that thread. So while talking about the multi-threading, we are going to look into all these topics like what is a Java thread and how to create a thread and the life cycle of the thread and what is the use of and we all know there is a main method from where our actual program execution starts and what is main thread there, why are we telling that main as thread here, and what is multi-threading and what is the importance of thread pool, because we are in the real-time projects we are using the thread pool in a wide manner. So thread pool has a wide importance in real-time projects. So let's go one by one. So while talking about the Java thread, as we all know, is a light.
Indumati, sorry for the interruption, ma.
Yes,
I
sir.
think mic is not. The screen is not shared.
Okay. It has stopped. Okay, let me share again. Thanks for informing, sir. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma. Yes.
Okay. So I'm repeating that again. Give me a second. Okay. So we are going to look from what is Java, what is Java thread and the thread lifecycle and how to create a thread and the importance of main thread and multi-threading, the concept of multi-threading and what is happening inside the multi-threading, how the lock is happening and how we are handling those locks, what is synchronization and how thread pool is important in real-time projects, everything we are going to look into. And when talking about the Java thread, as we all know, in the context of Java, the thread is a lightweight subprocess. You all know what is a process, and thread is widely used when we need certain processes to be occurring in parallel. Okay, so any process that is happening or any task that is taking place should not get disturbed by some other process that is accompanied by that previous process. So as it is mentioned here, it is the smallest independent part of unit of a program, and it has a separate path of execution. That is where the actual role is played. It has a separate path of execution, and so it is not getting disturbed, or it does not disturb any other parallel execution of any other thread. And every Java program contains at least one thread, and to our surprise, the basic thread, the major thread of our every Java program is the main thread, where we have the public static void main. So that is the main thread, and every Java program contains at least one thread. So that least one thread is main thread there. and it is controlled by and it is inside the package java.lang package. Yes, we all know that there are so many packages in Java, and since Java, I mean, thread is inside java.lang.thread, it is not necessary to import any packages. We don't need to import any statement. By default, it is available in lang package, so we can thereby use the thread class. And before looking into how to create a thread and how to use a thread, we should know how a thread actually functions, like how it is created and from where to where, what are the life cycle, what are the stages of the thread. Only then we can use that, right? So in whenever we create thread, okay, these are the stages like new, runnable, running, terminated, and the important thing is waiting. So whenever a thread is created, we can say that it is in a new thread, like a newborn baby. It is in a new state. Uh, from this state, when talking about this new thread, it is like it is not yet run, or it has to go to the runnable state. So it is not. When we are looking into the program, you will understand like there is a run method. Only when we invoke that run method, the thread will go into the runnable state. Till that, it will be in a new state only. So when it is run, then it is available for running. It is not in running state, it is available for running. It can run, or it can remain in the runnable state, or even it can enter into waiting state if some other process interruption happens, or if some other thread is been working for a long time. This has to wait. So the runnable is a state where it can either go to running state, or it can be blocked or in a waiting state. And if it is run, if we invoke the run method, it will move into the running state. If not, if some other interruption, as I have mentioned, it will go into the waiting state. And what if everything is everything is functioning in a proper manner, and the process of thread is completed. I mean, the function of thread is completed. So it enters into the terminated state. Once the task of the thread is done, it enters into terminated state. So these are the states. Uh, like I have what I have explained. So a new thread, a new state of, or a new phase of thread is when the thread actual when it actually gets beginned. So and so it is a newborn thread, as I have mentioned. So the runnable status, when it enters into runnable state, which is yet to run, but it has not entered into running state. Also running, when we invoke run method, the same is explained here. So while creating a thread, we have two ways of creating thread. You all know what is class and what is interface. Hope you are familiar with those concepts, what is a class and what is interface. With that information, we are moving forward. So we have two options to create a thread. We have there is a reason for both. Anyone wants to say anything? Okay, I'll proceed. So there is a reason for the two ways. Like we have a class where we can extend this thread class, or even we can implement a runnable interface. Why we can have any one thing, right? We can either have thread class, or we can even have runnable interface. But we are using both, right? There are some scenarios like we usually say that as use case. Based on the use case, we will decide like whether we need to use thread class or we'll use runnable interface based on the use case only. So when we are using the thread class, of course we all know that every class has a base class object. So the thread class extends object class, and it is also implementing runnable interface. So by default it implements runnable interface, and the other way of creating thread is by implementing runnable interface. We'll look into it in a deep way. I'll provide a demo like how we create a thread and how it is used, or how we are consuming the thread class and how we are implementing runnable interface. Everything I'll show. And while using the thread class, so we need to create a thread class, and we need to override a run method. That is a predefined method. I mean, already implemented method is there. So our run method is already available. So we are going to override that run method, and whatever we are going to do, whatever is required to be done, should be there inside that run method. Or even we can provide that in a some other methods, and we can just invoke that method inside that run method. So what does this run method means? It just invokes that function. Like the thread actually moves into running state. And after that, we all know, because Java is an object-oriented programming language, we are communicating with the real-time objects. Like we are communicating with objects, right? So we need to create an object for the class, and only then we can invoke those methods. So we need to create the object of the class, and after that we need to invoke this run method. Okay, and run method is inside the start method. When you are invoking, when we are extending thread class, this is the procedure. Like we need to override run method, and we need to create the object for that class, and we need to invoke start method. When start method is invoked, it automatically invokes the run method inside the thread class. So this is how the function, I mean, this is how the flow is. And when using the runnable interface, as we all know, we are going to implement an interface. So what is the use of this interface? We can still go with the thread class. So there is a serious import. I mean, this is very important to know. Like we all know, Java does not support multiple inheritance. Say for example, if my class is already extending some other class, like here I have mentioned as my thread. If my thread is already extending some other classes, I won't be able to extend my my thread class, because multiple inheritance is not supported in Java. So those times, at those scenarios, if you want to extend some other class, at the same time you want to implement your thread functionality, you need to go for interface, runnable interface. So this is the reason behind why we are going for runnable interface, because we cannot decide like we are going to use a single class, because in real time that's not possible, right? We are going to consume some other classes, we may extend some other classes, and in those times it will be useful. If not, we can simply go with the thread class. So this is the major difference why we are going to runnable interface. And as this is the basic difference between thread class and runnable interface. Before this, we'll move to the code, only then you will be able to understand why we have this difference. Okay, let me show you an example. Is my screen visible? Are you able to see the screen, or do I need to increase the font size? Is this okay? Okay, fine. So now we are going to see, as I have already mentioned, main thread is the major thread. You all know from where our program execution starts. If you are not providing main, the program will not get executed, right? So it will search for the main keyword. Where is that? And it has some method signature, right? We have, it should be public, and the access modifier should be public, and it should be static, and the return type should be void. This is the method signature, and it searches for that. There is a reason behind everything, like why it is why the access modifier is public, why it is static, why is it not static, and why the return type is void, and why are we using a string array to accept the input parameters. So there is a reason behind everything. And also we need to under what, while talking about this thread concepts, we need to look into what way means. We need to look this main method as a main thread, so from where our actual program gets started. Okay, so let me show you. Just for various scenarios, if I want to parallelly execute this, it will take much time. So I'll explain like what is happening here, and I'll execute the program, and I'll show you what is the real-time problem we are facing while working with thread. So here I have created a class as main thread sample, and we have a main method here, which is our main thread, and we have a simple statement like application started and application finished. Inside that we have a loop where it is just till 10, it is just incrementing and printing the statement. That's all. Just think this as we are printing some documents, like we have 10 documents and it is printing one by one. So this is how it is functioning. So I have another class where I'm actually okay, first let's look into this. So here inside our main thread, we have three statements. One is two are generally the printing statements, and one more loop we are having that we can consider as some kind of job is happening, like printing documents. So when we execute this, it's like application started and the flow is same, right? There is no interruption in between. The order is not changed. Everything application started comes first, and in between the printing is happening. I mean the printing of documents is happening, and at last application finished. So which means main is a thread, so it is happening properly. So I think the execution is happening properly. And now I have created another class like my task, and we have a method. It is also another printing functionality. Okay. Here also we are printing. Let's see how it works. So in order to consume this my task class, I need to create an object, right? So here I'm creating this object. I'm creating object for my task class using the new keyword. And with the object created, I'm invoking the method execute task. Let's run this and see how it is happening. You can see here like previously we had the printer one execution alone, right? The print statement of printer one, and here it is printed two, then printer one, because it's taking place in this way. The printer two is getting executed first, because inside the main thread, this is how we have executed. It is just a class. I'm hearing some other noise. Can someone mute? Thanks for that. So here we are using the method which is already available in some other class, say for example, my task, and I'm just executing that method. So it is happening in the way like sequentially it is happening. First application started, then the class, I mean execute task is taking place. After that, my main methods printing documents is taking place. But this is not how I need, because my printer one should start first, and then my printer two should start. So what I can do is I can assign a thread. Instead of creating it as a class, I can still use this as my thread, right? So for that, I need to extend my thread class. So here now we are going to work with thread. This is where the thread is not used. So without using the thread, we are facing this kind of issues like however I need sometimes. So this is a simple program. So we are not seeing any data inconsistency. There may be some data inconsistency like sometimes this will get some input from the first method, and sometimes we'll get some input from, I'm sorry, of some output from the second method. This kind of inconsistency happens. So when we need to go to the thread class, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just using the first way of creating thread, where we are extending thread, right? So thread is a class. I have already explained you. So this is a class, an API present inside java.lang package. And this class, we are overriding the run method. And inside run method, what I'm doing, I'm just using the printing the document function. That's all. So now I need to create object for this thread class. So our first step is we are extending the thread class, and we have overridden the run method. And now we are going to create a, an object for the task. After that, what I'm supposed to do is I cannot execute this task because my method is not now execute task. This was the method previously we had in this class. Now the class has been changed because we have extended the thread class, and we have overridden the run method. And now what we are supposed to do is we need to invoke the run method. And here is how how it's happening is we are not going to invoke the run method. We have a method in thread class which in turn invokes the run method by default. So what we are going to do is we are executing this run method. This start method will internally execute the run method. Let's see how it's happening. You can see here. Let me comment this. Okay. So this is how it's happening now, because we were expecting the printer one job should happen first, and then the printer two. Also now we are facing some issues like sometimes it is happening, sometimes it is printing the printer one statements, and in between it is taking printer two and again to printer one, because it is happening parallelly. It is not waiting for the other thread to execute. I mean, the thread we have created is executing parallelly, and the main thread is executing parallelly. No other thread is dependent on any other thing, so it is not stopping the other thread from execution. So what's happening here is both is getting executed. So we are getting the input from both the methods. So in real time, it is not good, right? That this is not how it actually have to work, because like what we said, it's some kind of printer is printing some documents. It is getting input from the person one, and it is printing three documents, and from person two it is printing the remaining documents, and again coming to person one's documents, and it is printing in between. How the final output will be something clumsy, right? So how to handle this? So we have extended thread, and we have used, like, we wanted to use our we somehow we wanted to invoke our printer one method, so we did that, but this is not still consistent, right? So well, this is an example. We'll look later like how to override this. Okay, now this is enough, like how to use a thread class. And our expectation is to print our printer one documents first, so it should not happen after printer 2. So it happened. So our use case is completed. Later on, we'll discuss like how to overcome this, how to fetch a proper, how to execute properly in a sequential manner. So we have seen like how to use a thread class. And now we'll discuss about what is the problem with the thread class, and why are we going to runnable interface. So here we have another method. I have explained, right? Multiple inheritance is not supported in Java. This is how it will work. Like if I have already extended a class C is some other class. Just for a sample, I have created C is a class, an empty class. I don't have anything here. So, and we are extending the CA class just for example, just for showing you, I have extended that. And we also need to implement our thread functionality. I would like to extend this thread, means it will not support because multiple inheritance is not supported, right? So this is the case where we are looking into a runnable interface. So in this situation, we are already extending CA class, and we can still implement runnable interface. The same method will be getting executed, the same flow is getting the same flow is getting followed. And here also we have this run method. Just the thing differs is we have extended thread class previously, and now we are implementing runnable interface now. So this is the difference. So here we have the same run method, and we are printing our documents, and the same like previously we are creating, wait, let me show that and explain, only then you'll understand. And for runnable, we are creating object for runnable interface. This is how it should start. The difference between this both, previously we create an object, we extended thread class, and we have created an object for thread, and we have invoked the start method. And when we are implementing the runnable interface, the method differs in this way. Like we need to create an object for runnable interface, and we have to create an object for thread class, and we have to pass that method. We have to pass the object of this runnable interface. We have created an object for my task, right? We are creating an object for my task, sorry, I mentioned it as for runnable. We cannot create an object for interface. We have just implemented. So we are creating an object for my task here and the 23rd line, and after that we are creating an object for thread class, and we are passing that object, the object of my task is to a thread class. We are passing to its constructor. After that, we are invoking the start method. So you all know, right? We have learned like it internally calls the run method. So the same process takes place. The same way is happening. It may differ, like sometimes it executes in this way, and sometimes it executes in that way. So this is how the thread actually takes place. Like this is how we create a thread. You have seen like when creating a thread that is in new state, and when we invoke that method, when we invoke start, we invoke run method internally, that's when it is entering into running state. Also, we can still make this as when we provide it as a thread dot sleep, it will move into waiting state. So we have examples for that. So we'll discuss that later. So when we provide, there is a method like a sleep method where we can provide the timing, like how many seconds we may need to make that to be in waiting state. So after this termination, I mean, after this complete process is done, it enters into terminated state. So this is how the thread and runnable interface happens. So here we have discussed about what is how to use the thread class and how to use the runnable interface. So we know now we'll look into the difference. Like we have seen how to consume a thread class and how to consume a runnable interface. So now we look into the difference. Like each thread creates its unique object. In both the cases, that's how it can use the same object. That's how it is not using the same object. It creates its unique object. So the parallel of, I mean, the path of execution is different. And of course, it consumes more memory because this is happening. This is happening in a parallel way, right? More thread process is happening, and as we have discussed, we all have learned that because a class extending thread class cannot extend any other classes. We have seen a class CA, so we were not able to extend a thread class. Even if we have extended thread class, we would not be able to extend some other classes. But this is not in the case with runnable interface. We can still implement any class, and we can still extend any class, and we can also implement this runnable interface. And the thread class is extended only if there is a need of overriding other methods. Like if we want to use some other methods of thread class, we are going for thread class. Otherwise, if we want to use only run method, because thread has some more methods, like this is how the run method only we have focused. There are so many methods inside the thread class. And if we want to use the remaining methods alone, it is valid to use the thread class. Otherwise, we can simply go for runnable method, because if we want to use the run method alone, if you want to just invoke the thread alone, we can go for runnable interface. So this is tight coupling, and this enables the loose coupling because there is no much dependency between each and every classes. This is how the loose coupling is happening. And now we have seen what is the main thread, right? This is an important thread, because without this main thread, the actual program does not get executed. So the actual program execution starts from this main thread. So it is executed whenever a Java program starts. And as I have mentioned, this every program must contain this thread for its execution to take place, because it searches for that. If it is not available, our program does not get executed. And it is needed because from this main thread only, the other child threads are spawned, as it is mentioned in the presentation. So from main thread only, the child threads, whatever threads we are creating would be considered as child thread, because main thread is the parent thread. So from there only the child threads gets executed. And also this is the last thread to finish execution. Also we have a daemon thread, and when we can set some thread as a daemon thread, it is also getting executed by the JVM along with the main thread. So this is how this is how the execution of main thread is happening. So in a pictorial representation, how we can start is, so the JVM, you all know what is JVM, Java Virtual Machine. This is responsible for execution of all our programs. So from JVM, our main thread is getting executed. We have seen what is a start method. The start method is a method available in the thread class or even in the runnable interface. I mean, this is the method of thread class alone. So when the thread start method is invoked, the run method is being invoked internally. So main thread is getting executed. Only after the main thread, the child threads which we have created. Now we have created a thread, right? We have created a class and we have extended the thread, my task. That is a child thread. So let's take child thread A as my task and child thread B as your task. So these two child threads will be executed after main thread, inside the main thread, we can say. And after that, if you want to create some other threads inside the thread A, so this is how the execution happens. And also I have mentioned about daemon threads, right? So when we want to set some threads as daemon threads, the daemon threads behave like a main thread. It starts its execution, the execution of the daemon thread starts along with the main thread, and it terminates when the actual program gets terminated. Like how our main thread functions, the daemon thread also gets functioned. So this is how it's happening. And this we have finally dived into multi-threading. So we need to understand what is thread, right? So we have discussed about it in a wide manner. So we have come to thread only for a thing like we need to run one or more task parallelly or in concurrently, we can say. We want to execute some task, but it should happen, it should not like if you want to play 10 songs at a time, it should not wait, it actually waits for one other song. But if you want to play some other song, it should not wait for the first song, like how how we need actually in the real time. So if some other song is not playing, it actually has to move to the some other song. If some song is not getting played for so much time, it has to move to some other song, or it has to play some other song. You might have noticed in Spotify or any other play music, I mean any other application. So it has to move to the second one, right? The next thread, I mean. So the next task has to get executed. So how to handle this? Because in real time, if some process is waiting for some other process that has taken place in the first place, it is going to wait forever, right? The only when the first task gets completed, the remaining will take place. So we are going to handle that. And also, when looking into the multi-threading, we are going to this is the ability of a program to run one or more threads concurrently. And whenever we are talking about a thread, each thread is handling a different task at the same time. We are talking about these resources in real time. We are when talking about the resources, we will say like establishing a connection for any DB, or those all kinds of things are considered as resources. So resource is very important. So we need to consume that in a proper way. Otherwise, there will be so much of uh, problems like memory consumption and a delay in execution. So delay in execution should not happen in real-time projects. So all these things need to be considered. So this plays a major role. And there will be look into the picture like a main thread, there is a switching between which thread. All this time slicing, this will take place by the CPU. Like I mean, there is a thread scheduler. Only the thread scheduler decides which thread to take place, which thread to get executed. It is not our we can just I mean specify, but the actual process happens like the thread scheduler alone decides like when to use which thread. All these things are decided by the thread scheduler. And the inter-thread communication or the switching between the threads, everything is handled by the thread scheduler alone. Okay, so we'll look into an example for this. So we have multi-threading here. Let me explain this in a fast way. So because we have a listing here. So we already know what is thread and how to create a thread. So I'm not going to explain the same here again. So we have a class here, multi-threading sample, because we are going to look into multi-threading. And also we have another class, printer. So in printer, we have a method like print documents. The same functionality is getting repeated just for understanding purpose. So the printer class has a method like print documents, and it will print how the it is taking dynamically the value, whatever value we are providing, it is getting executed. Like if you want to print 100 copies, we'll provide 100 and it will print 100 copies. Like that is how it is happening. So we have a printer class, and our class has a method print documents. So this is what, so we have created on object for printer class. Also, what we are going to do is we are going to use this printer object in our multiple thread classes. Like printer is the object created for printer classes. We are using the same object for different threads. We have mentioned like each thread has a unique object. Like mref is an object for my thread, and yref is an object for your thread. But they both are consuming the same object, printer. Okay, so what we are going to do is think like person A is my thread and person B is your thread, and person A is also in need of printing those documents, and person B is also in need of printing those documents. So how are we handling this? We don't need to create each and every time a separate method for whomever it is consuming. I mean, which and all classes gets consuming, right? So we have just created an object for printer classes, and we have created objects for my thread. My thread is a class, and it has extended this thread class. Here we have a reference for our printer class. Pref is we have just created a reference. We have not created any object here. We have just created a reference here. and my thread constructor. You know, all know what is a constructor and what is method, what is the difference between constructor and method, you know, right? So in my constructor, I have passed this object. So whenever my class gets, I mean, whenever the class is loaded, if you are familiar with the memory mapping, you would know, like when my class is loaded, after that, when my object is created, I mean, when an object is created for my thread, the constructor also initializes the I mean the fields or the properties that is available inside the constructor. So here it will create an object for printer. So we have just provided reference. So when we are passing the printer object, it will get assigned because we are passing that into a constructor. Also, we have overridden the method run method. It is just printing the documents here. The same thing I have done in the your thread method. The simple difference is between it's like two persons are working at the same time. My thread is also same, your thread is also same, but they are separate classes. They are separate functionality. Think like they are separate functionality, the separate needs, but they both want to print documents. Like, okay, so how are we going to do is let's think about the first thread class alone. So what will happen? So my, we all know the application started and application finished. Main thread is getting executed first. See, application started and application finished. In between only we have created the object, but this, since we are communicating with the threads now, it is happening in a concurrent way. Like first thread gets executed, only then the second thread gets executed. So first thread here is main thread. So main thread got executed, like application started and application finished is done. Only then my mref.start, the second thread, I mean the child thread, is getting executed. Okay, so in my child thread, what we have specified is printing sales document, right? Okay, this printing sales documents, this is what we have used. So my thread extends thread, and we have specified as we need to print the sales documents. So now we are going to invoke the second method. What's happening? Now you can see previously I have run. It was like it was in a proper way, like 1, 2, 3, 4. The PDF sales document was in a proper way, proper order, and then the business documents got executed. What I did was I executed it again, and the order was changed. Order is changed, right? And even if I do this again, you can see again what's happening. It's in a proper way. So this is how it happens. Like this is called inconsistency, right? This is not how it should happen. So what we have done is we have just consumed the thread, but we have not allocated, like we are not handling the process of thread. So there is a method like how to handle this in a real time, because we have talked this like someone wants to print some documents and some other person also wants to print the documents. So if it is happening in this way, this is not how it should be. This is not good, right? So what we are going to do is we need to synchronize them. Otherwise, we have a method in I already told, no, there are some other methods in thread class. We have another method here as join method. Uh, Join method is inside the thread class, and here it is showing us error. It is because it throws some exception. I think you already know what is exception and why is it important to handle those exceptions, because it should not interrupt the actual execution of the class. So here the execution, I mean, in order to handle this, we need to surround it with try catch. Okay. So we have just invoked this join method with my mref, which is an object created for my thread class. Okay. So now what's happening? Let's see. Look at the console. It's executing in a proper way. Even if I do number of times, This will not get changed. How many times I do also, this execution will not get interrupted, because what my join method is doing is it will make that second thread wait till the execution of first thread gets completed. So this is how it is happening. But look, in a real time we may use so many classes, because in our projects we may have so many scenarios to consume the thread, right? So we cannot go and put I mean, we cannot simply go and invoke this join method wherever it is required. We need to look wherever it is required. We cannot run and see like wherever it is required, and we need to add this join method there. So what we can do is, there comes our synchronization concept. So synchronization is very important, like, because this happens asynchronously. This execution happens asynchronously. So we are going to synchronize that. So the synchronization can happen in two ways. Like, we can either make our method, like we have print documents method here in our printer class, right? So either we can make this print documents method as a synchronized method, or some other particular block of method to be synchronized, whichever we need. If you want to talk about the synchronized block, here we have a run method. So if I want to make this print documents method alone as a synchronized, because if I make it as synchronized, it will execute first, and only after this execution the next threads will get executed. Let's see how it is happening. So if I don't want to use this join wherever it is required, like I may have so many classes in real time, I may have so many scenarios to implement this. So I will not go for this option. I'm not going to use this join method. I'm simply going to use this synchronized keyword here. What my synchronized keyword, see, I have just specified the synchronized here, which makes my method as synchronized. So the function happens this way. So the same thing is happening. How many times I run this also, it will execute properly. There will not be any change in the execution. See, there is no change in the execution. So it is happening synchronously now. And even sometimes, why do I need to make this complete method as synchronized? I can still use a separate block. Which block is required for me? Which block has to be synchronized? That block alone can be synchronized, right? So I can still go for that also, where we can specify the synchronized keyword. Also inside my run method, I have created a synchronized block. This is block, okay? This is the synchronized block. So here, if I have specified this as synchronized, and if I want to specify this also as synchronized, I can use this. The same thing happens. So this is how multi-threading is taking place. There is nothing more than this. Only thing is where we are applying and how complex the program is, how complex we are handling, because we have just specified to print 10 documents here. Think like 1 lakh documents is getting printed, and how this is going to affect some other process happening. So if it is keeping on working in this way, see, sometimes you may get like your application is not responding, because if you are not handling it in a proper way, the thread 1 is getting executed till 1 lakh documents is getting printed, and thread 2 has to wait. So in those times, your application will throw you some new custom exception, like custom message, like your application is not responding, or it will show us a sluggish manner, like application will start to hang, right? So those things are happening because some other process is happening for so much time, and we need to kill the process. We may need to, sometimes we are using the task manager and we are killing the process that is still running, right? This is how it is happening. So this is why it is important to understand, because in real time we are going to create so many products and projects. These things are need to be considered while looking into developing a product. So this is what I wanted to tell about multi-threading. Go. So this is done, multi-threading is done, and we are looking into this thread pool. So thread pool is nothing but there is a pool of worker threads, like many threads, because we are going to thread concepts, because we are going to execute many tasks in parallel. So many threads has to be assigned for each and every task, and we are assigning all this task in the queue. and these threads will get assigned one by one. And once that is done, the application, the actual functionality gets executed. This is how this is getting managed by the thread pool. So thread pool is really helpful in, as I have already mentioned, this is important while sharing a resource, because the resource is very important when you are working with any database, or when you are working with some other container or Azure container, or so many things are available, right? We are for storage purpose. So for that, we may need to establish a connection between that. So while creating the connection, that should be handled properly, because when talking about an application, it is not someone, it is not a single person who is going to consume that application. It's about millions of people who is going to consume that application, going to look into that application, they're going to process the application. So this has to work in a proper way. This should not affect even a millisecond, or even a second will cost them a lot. If someone is looking into Amazon and if it is still loading, and we'll look into Flipkart in the same way, right? Because he is losing customers at that point. If 1,000 is facing the same, he's losing 1,000 customers. So all these things are important to consider in real-time projects. So this is about thread pool. So we have seen how to create multiple threads, and joining threads. We have invoked a join method, and also I have specified as thread sleep, thread.sleep method is available in thread class. And inter-thread communication, like which after which thread has to work, like all this process. And about the daemon thread we have talked. So this is about thread. And now we have only some time, so let's conclude with this generic programming. Generic program is not a big concept, but it's very important concept to look into. So when what are the scenarios we go for generic programming is basically we are working with real time, I mean objects. We are working with objects, and the sole purpose of going for programming language is to automate the things. We are not going to manually do any process. We are going to automate whatever needs to be done, right? So which means our input and output should be dynamically specified. What kind of input I'm going to provide for my program, I mean whatever input to the class, whatever output I'm expecting. So I cannot specify like I want this as my output and I want this as my output. We cannot prepare a class for each and every functionality, each and every need. I cannot create a separate classes. I need to have a class, I need to have some methods, or I need to have some functionality that should be generic in the sense general, we all know. So it should be common, it should commonly accept so many kinds of inputs. At the same time, it should not be used, it should not get misused in some other way. So in generic programming, what the key feature is the, I mean, we are using that generic, what is the structure of generics, everything I'll show. So the first thing is type safety. I'll show the method. I mean, I'll show the program only, then you'll understand. Okay. So this is what we are specifying as generics. The symbol, right? So greater than or less than symbol. So this is how we represent generics. So you may know, like in collections, we have array list because we are going to deal with objects. So a collection of objects has to be iterated, or has to be stored, or has to be created. So many searching or all this process, all this mechanism can take place. So we have array list to store a number of objects inside that list. And also we need to specify what kind of list it is going to be, whether it is a list containing numbers or it is a list containing string. If I'm not providing this string, it may accept integers or a double or a float data types. So I'm restricting my list to accept only string values. This is where we are talking about the type safety. So we are specifying that my list should only accept the string class. See, it will show the compile time error. If I'm not having this generics here, means I may not have this feature in array list. I can still use this. It will just throw us a warning like this is not type safe. See, if I hover that, say array list is a raw type, it should be parameterized. It is because it can be used in any way. See, now it is not throwing error, right? Now it is not throwing error. I'm adding 32, which is an integer type, but it is still accepting because I have not restricted that. So I don't need this because it should not throw error after that, or it should not accept. Like if it is accepting this value, my scenario is not like accepting this integer. I want to accept only the string values. So what I'm doing is I'm restricting my list to accept only the string values. This is how generics actually takes place. This is a basic example of how generics is happening. So this is very important in real time. Like we are using, like when we have a dynamic a class comment for so many third party APIs, we may in real time we may consume so many third party APIs, so we may not know which kind of request it is going to throw. I mean, it is expecting which kind of response it is going to give. So we are going to bind all those objects. So it has to be in dynamic way, like whatever request we need, whatever response we need, we are going to pass it dynamically to that class. So if it is needed, I have to specify it in a generics. We can still use generics here as I mean my class as generics. If you want to create a method here inside if you want to create some other methods inside my class with you can say um, of return type t, you need to specify when invoking this method, you need to specify what the t should be. It should be string or any other things. There are so many real-time objects, like if you are working with animal or a dog class, you can specify this class should have this as type parameter. So this is how it is happening in the real time. We can have generic classes, we can have generic methods, we can have generic types, like how we have created an object for array list. This is how generics is happening in the real time. So I think we have covered everything for the plan. And if you want, we can go. Why did I close this? Okay. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me now. So this is about generic programming. Try focusing on generic programming a lot, because there are so many examples available in the internet. So this is the basic thing, like why we are going. The basic need is the type safety, and typecasting is not required. We don't need to cast that. If you want, if we have just a specified, it should accept a string, it will accept the string. And compile time checking, as I have already told, when we removed the generics, it didn't show any error. But when we entered the generics, it showed us error. The compile time checking, like compile time itself, it is showing us error. So it is very helpful for the developers to identify what to do and how to approach that. So this is an example. So I have done with multi-threading and how to create a thread, the basics of thread and multi-threading, and also about generics programming. Hope you all understand something. And if you have any queries, you can ask me now. I'm able to. I'll try my level best to sort that out.
Ma'am, could
Yes.
you show your code on generic programming, ma'am?
Students, do you have any doubts? Indumati, are you there? Can you hear me, Indumati? Students, sorry for the trouble. I think there is power cut from the guest side, so she is unable to join again. Let's wait for another 2 minutes.